Okay, count it down.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
10, 9, 7, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Greetings, Mechwarriors! This is the Beef 2.0 speaking, and welcome to the first circuit. Today, we are going to be talking about different problems with the nodes and skill tree. We have Old Bob 1.
Hold on, wait. No, Bonnie. The battle value system done by Exo. Ah.
Whatever. God damn it.
Okay.
Cleanest intro ever.
Okay, keep going, Bonnie.
Just cut off instantly. So say Exo first.
Go and say Exo first.
We have Exo here, the brony who's not really a brony. Easiest way to put it. We have our own professional ankle biter Byter. We have Bob 1008, and then you have me, the beef impersonator Bunny the Bunny.
There we go.
He was hiding in the jungle.
He's in the jungle now, yep. So Exo, you have something about the battle value system of the Mechwarrior to actually go ahead and replace the tier system. Is that what we're going with?
Let X, yeah. Let
okay,
Exo kick
so-
this off.
There you go.
So this is where it gets fun because, like, to correctly do battle value, you might as well do the work to get rid of the tier system at the same time, because the tier system doesn't actually work as a tier system. It would seem. It's more of an experience bar, from my experience.
First, I would think first let's just lay the groundworks of what we're talking about, what the battle value system is, etc., etc.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, though, in the tabletop, it's a way to balance your forces against somebody else's. It had a battle value system where it added value to the of a mech for every piece of equipment and bits and bobs, every single piece of equipment in a mech, so that you would roughly have equally valuable mechs on each side of the team. And the idea with proposing the battle value system in Mechwarrior Online is that way you could make sure that mechs are balanced against one another by taking account of how effective different chassis are, what equipment they have on them, etc., etc.
It's basically to balance out like everything, right?
Yes.
Why we're suggesting it, or at least that's why you're wanting to suggest this in the first place.
Yes, that is exactly why. So you basically just associate anything that can be changed. So omnipods would have their own battle value ratings. Armor points would have a battle value associated with them because we can change it. All items that you could put onto or take off the mech. So if it has laser AMS versus ballistic AMS, how many tons of that there are.
Okay.
Not where it's located so much. That might be something, but I would say where it's located would matter. But you could just say that ammo has a different rating if it's in a foot versus if it's in a side torso or something.
Well, why is
A
that
question
though?
I would have is I'm not familiar with the battle value system from the tabletop. I've just only sort of seen it on Sana. So how much are we just going to use exactly the same system, or how much do we have to change it for the first-person shooter environment?
The only change would be making it more dynamic, because usually most people are running the stock loadouts or stock variant configurations of each mech. But there is a battle value calculation system in regular BattleTech. I think just like how there has to be some stripping of certain rules and certain sanctions and agreement and things that you concede to the fact that it's a different media. I think just applying the broad idea of battle value system to Mechwarrior would be sufficient to get the same desired effect.
Well, they tried that like in the board game with Battle Force, I believe it's called, or Battle Force, I think. I don't know. It's been a long time since I played the board game, but I know they did that, and we tried that battle force system or the battle value system, and it was cool and everything, but it started getting way complicated, and so we just went ahead and just made out a record sheet for each mech for a whole regiment against regiments, and just fought it out like like in company-sized battles. But like what could actually increase or make it better for the battle value system for Mechwarrior Online, because it will be different for the board game itself.
Well, basically, the math's done for you. So, like, step one of that is not a problem that you would have to deal with. The computer is very good at doing math. It can add all that up.
I know. Computers, I don't know. They're not good at math, man.
I don't know.
The difficulty, though, will be always the accessibility of the system, because now it's going to affect game balance, perhaps affect decision-making. And having that behind a very complicated system is going to be hard, not for only new players, but old hats as well.
Well,
that's actually where I think it's not really entirely true. So I actually tried to look up the quote and find where it's sourced, but it's that limitations breed creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no limitations on the system, it's actually very hard to be creative. That's why Minecraft works as such a good creative tool, and why MS Paint is such a good creative tool for an average user. And I think that the Mechwarrior's build system still retains enough of that open canvas of just slam stuff onto the mech and you'll be fine. The battle value is not limiting you in any way. It's just a total of what's on the mech. So you're not adding any new limitations to building a mech. Maybe in a group scenario you could add limitations where it's like the total battle value of what your group's like drop amount can't go above 10,000 or something like that. Like the same tonnage limitations that we have now. But because I think that battle value would also be a better way of limiting group size.
So that would actually replace the tier system then?
We're not at replacing the tier system yet, because So what we're doing is we're rating the mech. The tier system, in theory, would be better suited for or an elo system would be better for rating the pilot separately from the mech. And then it's the combination of those two that allows you to guess or estimate how effective or how good someone's going to play in a match.
Okay. So going.
What are we actually proposing here? What's actually being changed? Because I click my fingers and we all figure out how the battle values can be calculated. It does it for all the mechs, all the chassis, which is a huge ask, but nonetheless, it is achieved. Where is it applied? Is it just quick play, group play, scouting, or faction warfare, all of them? And how is it done? What's it doing?
Okay, so what it's doing is it gives PGI a better metric for comparing a 100-ton mech to another 100-ton mech. Currently, from my experience and from the experience of other people that I've talked to, it may take into account which variant you're using, but it doesn't take into account how effective that mech design or mech build could be. Such as Bonnie's heavy machine gun Atlas. That one did okay, but
did 330 damage. It's an assault mech that weighs 100 tons with one heavy machine gun. You can't argue with derp, because I am the king of derp. I make anything derp work.
Derp
we
OP.
know this now.
Derp OP.
Yes. So, like, but if you take a stripped Atlas that just has an engine and armor in, it'll place you into the assault lance just as well. Like, the game does not care what is on your mech. So all this is allowing the matchmaker to do is to start caring about what is on a mech instead of just its weight or what class
basically
mech it is.
The proposition is that it's trying to weigh up two teams of equal value, and if the mechs on one team are valued lower according to the battle value thing, it will value those particular players and those mechs lower as a consequence. Whereas if you're in a mech that has been shown has a very strong value, very high value and battle value, it will value them higher.
So, like, let's say basically
those two teams against each other.
So like, let's say you battle it out like between two teams, one stronger, one's less. Would the less team actually get more Seabills and more XP because their battle value is less?
I mean, you could put in
Matchmaker,
some
right?
kind of modifier. This is mostly just from the matchmaking side.
Okay.
This isn't really from the other side.
Yeah, I kind of figured that when we started talking about it.
Because like that'd be
Yeah,
actually pretty cool. Because then the clans can
Oh,
actually
yeah.
bid down. It's like we're gonna make our battle value 1,000 less than you guys, and so we're better that way.
Yeah, I mean, it would also.
It sounds like it's going to be a behind the hood system. Oh, sorry.
Yes, this is mostly just a behind the hood system. I mean, you can give it. I would say it would need to be one of those extremely visible systems, so that way it could be utilized properly.
Yeah.
But the fear that people are going to min-max it, it's just a given in video games that people are going to min-max stuff with things
Oh,
like
God, yeah.
Sarna and Smurfy in existence. Not
BRB.
Sarna specifically, but Smurfy. Smurfy would just be able to like add one thing to like it's just one number entry to each item, and then just calculate it and throw it up as one of the other stats that's on there. It would be able to be better compare like how do you apples to apples compare a raven against like an Arctic cheetah?
It all depends on the pilot's skill too.
Well, that's where the
The
elo system
loadout
comes in.
and their role in the team and stuff. It's
Yeah.
a lot of incomparables.
That's what I mean. It's like comparing apples to oranges, but if you have battle value systems, you can at a distance vaguely correlate them.
If
What
we're
that-
talking about grouping like different mechs together, you were talking about what is on the mech. Did you mean like laser vomit with laser vomit, ballistics with ballistics?
No. Okay, so all it's doing is abstracting it to a number, which a matchmaker can use to compare two teams that are separate. That's all it's doing. Because right now, tonnage is not a good enough descriptor of what is on the mech. Because you can have nothing on the mech, and the matchmaker counts it as 100. You can have the mech full of all the meta cheese, and it still counts as
Yeah.
I get you
in
now.
tonnage. So all this is allowing the matchmaker to do is have a more concrete idea of how much armor did you put on the mech? Max armor versus half armor. How many heat sinks did you put on? All the heat sinks you could carry, or half the heat sinks you could carry. Are you in a direwolf that's only got 98 tons instead of 100? You can now compare those two and see a difference between a 100-ton direwolf and an 89-ton or a 98-ton direwolf, because I know some builds for the direwolf end up at 98 tons. So that means that the matchmaker or in a group scenario, you could actually have the direwolf fit in where the 100-ton direwolf couldn't because of that. Because it's limiting the group size based on total battle value instead of based on tonnage directly, or just tonnage.
Do you think this will be better off, like with say faction warfare, than actually the normal game itself?
I think it would work better in the whole thing.
The whole thing, okay.
Yeah, it would be a slightly better metric for basically all of them. The limitations would clearly change based on which mode we're talking about. Like tonnage limits for like a 4 or a battle value limit for a 4 mech drop deck would clearly need to be different. But like, notice how I'm not saying that each mech should have a battle value limit. Each mech should have an infinite limit. You can add if you can fit infinite battle value onto it, you should be able to fit infinite battle value onto it. However, it's things where we already have tonnage limits in place, such as group limiting and drop deck limiting. Those are the places where I think that you could use battle value as a better limiting system.
Yeah.
And it would honestly allow you to min-max a little bit better than in other places. So, and it would also value things like stripping your arms for putting more weapons in the center torso or in the side torsos. That would actually value losing those armor points. Not running mechs at max tonnage would actually kind of serve a purpose. I'm not saying that's a good idea, but hey, it's a purpose,
Yeah.
Whatever works.
It's like,
Yeah,
because
it's a bit
right
interesting.
now the game punishes you if you find a really good build that comes in under tonnage. Like, the game encourages you to utilize as many slots as possible, and as many tons as possible. Well, with everything being based on battle value, it would value, it would allow you to feel better about not taking all those slots or not taking all the tonnage.
So that would actually determine the battle value, like, say like laser AMS, or well, obviously, but like what would what would be the values? Like, say 100 ton will be worth.
That was part of the given that Byter was talking about, where we just snap our fingers and it's magically working.
Oh, okay. Just
I was saying
magically
that just earlier.
Okay, so the way that they did the original battle value numbers is it's basically an arbitrary number. That's it. And then PGI would be able to adjust balance actually based on those as well. Slightly.
Because I was going to ask, actually, for example, a medium laser on different chassis, like an Innisphere medium laser, has radically different results because of not only hardpoint placement, but also the number that you can mount them with, how many mediums you can fire at once, how well they work with the other weapons similarly, but also obviously how skilled up the mech is and how quirked it is naturally for that weapon. A medium laser, or one medium laser on Atlas is not necessarily going to be the same as a heavily quirked up Locust with 6 of them.
So that's one of the situations where so whenever it comes to an actual battle value system, you're talking about something that's being modified. So in that situation, we're not talking about the medium laser. We're talking about the end result after all the math, because you're saying, oh, what if I add these other things to the equation? So what the battle value system would allow you to do is those items that you're saying that makes one of them better, you add something to it. You equate those as costing more. So the base chassis has a battle value associated with it. The Locust 3M has its own value that is separate from everything else. You don't start at 0 with a stripped mech. You start at whatever the base amount for that mech is. So you can tweak that number.
Okay.
So like,
an
an Omni mech would be able to have more, or like, say if you took the head Omnipod that has a laser mount, that would cost more battle value. So now there's actually a reason to take the one without it.
Because the placement of the weapon actually increases the battle value, right?
Exactly. Okay. Or the chance to would increase the battle value of the mech, because there's an option that doesn't. So because that's all this is it's just meant to be an abstraction layer. It's not supposed to be perfectly describing every situation. It does a much better. It has a much better job of 100 tons or 45 tons.
Difficulty though with this is a matter of feasibility and understandability. If
feasibility is not really that bad.
Yeah, if it's not feasible though, and it's a huge workload for not necessarily something I even think that necessarily changes things very much or improves things very much, I don't see necessarily much point in entertaining the concept, honestly.
Well, I mean, we could argue that feasibility means that Mechwarrior Online shouldn't even run at all, because it's not feasible to hold up a big prolonged lawsuit against Harmony Gold. But like,
that's still going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even. They're not even to the first trial yet. Like, come on. So
argument.
Feasibility is honestly a weak argument whenever all that's being asked for is a numerical addition. Compared to some other people's recommendations for how to fix Mechwarrior Online, that's actually pretty small.
It's not very feasible, and it doesn't necessarily even really make much of a difference, honestly.
Why do you say that?
Well, how much of a difference would this make in the overall gameplay when people actually start playing the game? Go explain that part of I think that's what Byter's saying.
It would lead to more evenly balanced matches.
Hold on a second though. Byter, I mean, you give him a stick, he can kill any mech in it. He can kill any mech.
Pretty much.
And that's also why I'm saying an elo system is also needed in the game, regardless of whether or not this one's in. The battle value system is something that would just amplify an elo system.
Do you think we should have both then?
Yes. I think that the tier system is a terrible way of organizing pilots.
Oh, it's horrible.
Because if I grind out enough matches, I can get to tier 1, and I will never be as good as Byter.
Yeah.
So how do you compare me, Bonnie, and Byter and Old Bob? Well, an ELO system would allow for a single numerical number to describe all of us separately.
Oh, okay. Go explain it like an ELO, like exactly what you want to go explain it as.
To give my own counterpoints, right?
Okay, Byter. Explain why an ELO system would be bad.
No. At least because we're moving on. You moved on right from the new system, because that's at least essentially what we just you're saying. Oh, why it should be valuable? Oh, it would be able to balance things more. Well,
you just said it was bad. Like that was your counter argument to my saying that it would allow for a better the matchmaker to make a better apples to apples comparison between things that are not able to be compared directly versus a broad strokes counting by 5 20 to 100 system.
Mm-hmm.
I throw down the gauntlet. I then give you a chance to explain the but rhetorically speaking, I throw down the gauntlet, right? I give you a chance to explain why you think it's the benefits, and now it should only be fair I explain the detriments or why I'm skeptical about the proposition. Right?
Yes.
So the question is, okay, so there's we're implementing the system already in the game as it currently is. Wondering, at least in terms of the player count, whether optimization will necessarily even change anything in terms of equalizing the relative skill for two teams. If the player base is not necessarily that many people searching at one time, you want to optimize speed over finding just the perfect match of two different teams against one another. It's even questionable, you throw dirt on the tier system. Yes, you can indeed reach the top of tier 1, but as many people have commented upon, it seems like almost they're mixing all the tiers together from tier 1 to tier 5.
They are.
They are. Or it seems very likely, which indicates at least they are still prioritizing speed over efficacy.
So the issue is basically, can PGI implement this without actually compromising speed, right?
Or at least the question is, if, for example, you've got 12 people searching, 24 people, sorry. You've got 24 people searching. You can find slightly better ways to match those two teams up, but for the most part, you're going to be stuck with those players, with that selection. And there's always going to be limitations to how well you can optimize that.
So I have tried to get about 10 people into the game, and each one of them has said that the moment that they solo dropped, they either got lurmed to death or nothing happened, and they just got murder balled by the enemy team very quickly. And that these are people that I know are Bonnie, you're making noise.
Bonnie.
These are people that I know are good at games. These are people that I know that are good at shooter games. These are people that play CSGO and PUBG and consistently do well. However, in Mechwarrior Online, they can't do anything and are not able to progress beyond the first 10 matches without feeling like the enemy team has consistently been stacked against them. And they've watched it happen.
Well, I know
from I think at least in regards to that, there's a very high barrier to entry beyond that of most FPS shooters. Call of Duty, for example, is commonly derided as a very simple first-person shooter. But if you play against any group of newbies, you can see how utterly terrible the majority of people are at these types of games, typically speaking. It takes a long while to get even used to Call of Duty, let alone Mechwarrior, all of its details and eccentricities.
Okay. So how would you be able to consistently line up newer or lesser rated players with newer or lesser rated players?
Okay, hang on, guys. I'm going to do a little test here. So I'm dropping into a game right now. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in chat and say over mic, hey, what are your guys' tier? I'm taking a survey. Once everybody, or at least a few people type in their tier, because I'm in tier 5, and then I can see, if this is true, if everybody's stacked against each other.
Well, I know from experience, though, like like on my tier 5 account, on my alt account, I've been fighting tier 1 guys. I know these guys. I've been fighting them like crazy, like almost every night now, basically, like with my alt account. And it's been happening like through their tier system. And I think the battle value system would be good. But like Byter says, it might have some speed issue, and I might just have to fight the same exact people because it'll actually be optimized for me to fight, say like Byter or other people like that. Not that I'm in Byter's league or anything. That's just way up there. But for the tier and everything else, it's broken. It just has to be fixed, or something has to be done to it. And with the battle value system, I think it could increase it to make it a little bit better, and then the elo system will work out as well too.
Yeah. So basically, hold on.
Interestingly, about to praise the tier system. At least I would say, in theory, at least when it has a sufficient player base, it to me makes a lot more sense in regards to talking about first time experience, because as you said, the more you play, the more high you're going to go up in tiers. Well, the more you play, the more likely you're going to get to over time. You're going to be more acclimatized to the game. So if you had a huge player base, all of the new players are starting at the bottom of tier 5. They do not meet at all those really experienced players. However, the problem isn't necessarily the matchmaking system. It's the fact there isn't a large enough player base, so they have to loosen it. And here's the really important thing about speed. If this is your first time experience and you wait 30 minutes for a game, it's not worth it. Exactly. It's not worth it. People are impatient. If you're just trying out this thing and it takes forever to find a game, you're like, well, I'm not sticking around for this. It has to find games very quickly and easily, which is what they've been doing.
So the funny thing about what you're saying is that neither of these two systems would cause a problem, because they're both trying to achieve the same goal. And honestly, I'm pretty sure, like from what I've seen in the background, the tier system keeps track of what number you are compared to like everybody else. The problem is that, like you were saying, there isn't a big enough player base. So I don't think the problem right now is actually with finding matches quickly enough. I think the problem is actually entirely to do with the fact that the player base is too small to be able to allow for a distinction between the different tiers.
Okay, so in this drop game, like I said, I was going to see what tier everybody was. Currently on my team, I have 2 tier 2s and a tier 1, and on the enemy team, there are 3 tier 5s.
And you're tier like you're a tier 5 player, right?
I'm tier 5, yeah. So that proves what you said, Bob, that it doesn't matter what tier.
Well, they had to do the same thing for faction warfare, because it was great that we could attack the inner sphere from inner sphere, but since there's such low player base, they had to put inner sphere versus clans, and that's it. That's all. That's what they had to do, and they had to do it because, like we keep on talking, there's keeps getting lower and lower and lower.
I mean, maybe they could just make CW seasonal.
That could be interesting, or just special events or something.
You mean like the food pellets that they've been throwing us?
Yeah, like the food pellets have been throwing us.
Argument is at least there's never going to be a perfect system. At least,
Oh no, of course not.
Oh yeah.
And you're always going to have strengths and weaknesses with any system. As far as I can tell, the problem currently is player base rather than optimization of matching those players together. And
it's not much, chocolate.
I think, ELO or the thing we're discussing right now, system will actually fix in that regard, because I agree very much with the idea that we need to optimize on speed. I have had nights where we wait for hours for a game.
What, a faction warfare?
That was no, in a group queue.
There are some times I've been waiting a long time, but I don't think an hour though.
I've never had a long time in like that in quick play, like single drop. Maybe in group queue, but group queue is different because they're defined groups of the right size. Like quick play, if quick play takes half an hour, then you know that there's a real problem, because it's not going to break up a group of 8 to make a group of. Or like there's 3 groups of 8, they're not going to break up one of the groups into 2 groups of 4 so that way it can play. But the quick play, there's no groups, or the single player quick play. That's not.
For the most part, the main issues you highlight with this evaluation system is, for example, players taking gimmicky or joke mechs into a fight, or there's no reason to select, to take not all the full tonnage for your mech.
Yeah.
And once I can sort of see that, and with a large player base, I certainly think that there could be great opportunities for example, if you take a gimmicky mech, you're matched up against all the other gimmicky mechs. That would be hilarious.
That'd be fun.
Or like meta mechs that are like similar in battle value, like that could just be small or something. That could also happen
against each other. They can have their own snipery heaven, or the gold CPC, and they can do them, and I could do my derpy builds in my own corner. That would be brilliant if there was a sufficient player base. Unfortunately,
there's not.
I don't think there is that opportunities, and for the most part, people typically don't take these gimmicky builds. The majority of players don't, and for the majority of players, they usually take as much tonnage as possible. They want to maximize the value of the all the stuff they can do with the mech they're taking out.
I have to admit, I do a lot of derp, so just let you know. So I love doing that.
I like a lot of derp. Yes.
Honestly, as the game stands, the best place for this the place where this system would fit in the best is with making group limiting better. Or at least a little bit more effective.
Group living, like, in fact, what do you mean?
So tonnage limits on groups, like battle value limits, would be a little bit more effective at describing how effective a mech would be.
True. Like, and basically just go and take a bunch of like asses, with a 12-man group. You have to base it off like battle values, right?
Exactly. Because whenever you get up to a 12-man group, you can't do the classic, battle mech company layout, which is like two assaults and like 4 heavies, 4 mediums, and like 2 lights. You can't do any of those. You basically start coming down to, if you want an assault, you got to have like 8 people in a light. To be able to start having enough spare tonnage to have one heavy or a mech above like what, 85 tons.
I don't know if people are gonna like that though, because it's hard enough getting people to figure out different tonnages just in a group game itself, let alone having to go deal with battle values. Well, okay, let me take off my ER large laser, and that's 10 battle value, and like make it like a medium laser, that type of thing.
Oh no, community interaction and creativity.
Yeah, I know it's horrible.
I agree though with Bob that it makes it a lot more finicky rather than just tonnage, because with tonnage, it's really simple. Just tell someone to drop down to a 25-ton mech or something like that. Instead, you have to tell them to drop down to a battle mech of X battle value or below.
Oh, fine. It could just be for competitive, where people will actually care about doing that. I mean, that would work too.
Imagine if they come out for an event with dealing around competitive. I would totally drop with my heavy machine gun Atlas just for shits and giggles. I'm not even kidding. I would probably do that.
I would say actually that would be quite interesting for competitive, because at least when I played back in the day, it was 2 of each weight category, or X of each weight category. So for the most part, if you're taking an assault, take a 100-tonner, right? You're taking a heavy, take a 75-tonner, etc., etc. It made a huge number of mechs, particularly the ones at the bottom of their weight categories, completely redundant. Why take a quick draw as your heavy when you could take an Orion?
Yeah, true. True.
So, like, there is a place for the battle value system. Like, maybe if the community was like 8 times as big as it is now, it would be much more useful, because you're trying to, compare gradients next to each other instead of like, broad strokes. Because right now the player base isn't large enough to support a system like that. I think an ELO system would just be effective to just go ahead and convert over to a system like that, because what it would allow you to do is you can still have like a leveling system or some sort of thing like that, kind of like how League of Legends already has. You get to level. Shut up, Bonnie. I'm just making a comparison. God, Overwatch, fine. Like, come on. Every game that's like had a competitive mode or some sort of like ranked system has done something similar to this, where you have to reach a certain level before the competitive ranked version unlocks. Mechwarrior Online doesn't have that.
I get a question from someone like in the chat though.
What's up?
Okay, John says, how do you fix a tier system to account for the mech?
Okay, so I'm about to actually get to that.
Okay.
So what you do is basically, anybody that's leveling, you can throw against people that are leveling. You just equate them to being about the same tier. If the player base is large enough, then you try to fit people that are in the same level against each other, and as they slowly gain XP, eventually everybody will be at the top, level 30, whatever, allegory, tier 1, you know. Then, once you hit that point, then you enter basically what I would call the global leaderboard, and you get given a number. Take your ticket on the way in, you know. You get stuck at a leaderboard number, and then winning matches raises you, losing matches lowers you. And then you could even use the battle value of your mech or whatever, or the tonnage somehow, to modify how many points you gain. So if like you have low battle value, you go up 26 points at a time whenever you win. You go in with low battle or a high battle value mech, you gain few points like 10 points each time you win to get further up in elo. And so what that would allow players to people to do is eventually the system self-corrects to where you sit about in the same area as everybody else. Even with a small player base, it would still allow for the lower end players, even though ones that are like somehow made it to tier 1, like in the current system, that grinded the XP bar to get high enough or got carried there. Whenever they solo drop, it would allow those people to kind of congregate near the bottom of the pile, and the good players to kind of congregate near the top of the pile. And what that would do is, you know, allow weaker players to play with weaker players and stronger players to play with stronger players. I'm not saying it's a perfect system, but then again, the current system you can't describe as perfect either. The current system just doesn't scale as well as an elo system would do. Because I think the current system, the tier system, tries to play as an elo system by just kind of grouping people into the buckets of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And the elo system would be able to do a similar thing by just kind of grouping the 1200 tier player, like the 1200 elo players and the 1500 elo players and the 1600 elo players and stuff like that. Okay,
can you explain what elo is exactly?
It's an arbitrary number. It's just an arbitrary number that's assigned to you.
Okay, basically say like Bob will have like 1500 points or something like that, right?
Yeah, okay. And Byter would have 12,000.
12 million. Okay.
You know.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you gain points when you win, you lose points when you lose, and you gain more when you defeat a team who, who overall has more ELO than your team, for example. So it rewards you more for overcoming great challenge according to its own metrics, and it rewards you less for overcoming trivial challenge.
I would like that. That would be kind of cool, actually.
And I think that exposing that number to the players would also be nice. It would be one of those like it would encourage the players that just want to get a higher number, because that's a play style. I think that you could the tier system is neat, but that it should be used as what it is, an XP bar where you can only go forward.
Well, at first it was fine.
That does raise an interesting question about a question of perceptibility, because as I've said, the current tier system is mostly trivial. In some regards, it actually is distracting us because of people complaining, "Oh, look at this tier system, and it doesn't really, weigh me properly, and it doesn't even mean anything." Yeah,
just rank everybody on a global leaderboard and tell you what position you're on.
Yeah,
in some ways, at least. You can. A huge part of competitive games is psychology of the players, not even just the metrics behind it. If you hide all your systems, then and players are having fun games, they have to just assume that the system is working correctly. If, however, they aren't, when their games don't work out, if they have metrics to figure out, the system didn't really, match us fairly, it then gives them more cause to complain about the system. So there is totally legitimate arguments to players wanting to see all the numbers, and some really want to game those numbers, but also there's a great reasons to also want to hide all of those numbers so that players build a positive feedback loop.
I mean, I would prefer actually probably go ahead and hide it, because I've been trying to get Russ to give the real stats for the faction warfare before event, during event, and after event, and see basically if the food pellets that they do give us for the events are legitimate. Basically, saying, "Oh yeah, faction warfare is the best thing since sliced bread." in reality, I pretty much know it's like as soon as that food pellet goes away, half to 3/4 of your player base goes down. And so what can we do to fix that? And that's basically what kind of like what the elo system and the battle value system would do to help fix that. But I think it should be hidden, although I will press Russ constantly about it, but he will never actually tell me numbers.
I think that an elo system, it's just one singular number. They already tell us what position people are on leaderboards for like certain mechs. I think having something like a global leaderboard and telling you what your position in it would be like the global leaderboard for everything.
Yeah, global overview.
They have a leaderboard for all the players for different. Was it quick play, group jobs, and all that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, I'm looking at it like right now.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Like currently, I am ranked at 123 for light mechs. So
I'm ranked currently for global 3,220, but I don't give a crap.
Board is predominantly.
You want to know? You want to know what my rank is? 576.
I would say that number is fine. Like, just make it more visible. Put it as the next box down on tier whenever you get above tier 3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I
don't necessarily care much about this leaderboard because doesn't it just mostly scale by total wins or something?
Yeah,
like
wins, death, kill death ratio. But a lot of people go over that and then masturbate I got 3.33 kill death ratio. It's like, well, you probably you probably killed a bunch of mechs that were like half dead, type of thing. It's a system that basically people use to go and shame other people a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, that's why an elo system doesn't tell you metrics like that specifically. It's supposed to just be a solid arbitrary number. You're always going to have people that lord things that they're better than other people over other people. That's just people are assholes and people are going to be mean. Like,
really, people are assholes? You're kidding? No way.
You can't change that.
On the global overview, what rank are you again?
Who, me?
Me?
I don't even know what mine is.
3,220.
2,500.
But a medium, I'm 535. I play a lot of medium mechs.
Currently, I'm double your current rank. I'm twice as far down.
I mean, you
I
can
haven't played
also
that much recently.
See, you're a jerk, man.
you can also have it be where the highest making people also decay over time. Like that's a pretty normal thing in elo systems to keep the top top 1,000 players decay elo over time, so they have to consistently play well.
Like the beef is ranked at 350 for global.
350? Damn.
Yeah. I mean,
currently it's I think you
wow.
can see its total wins.
40, 49, medium.
And you might be on a derp team too. Basically, it just runs a bunch of lerms. So you might get certain games. You have 12 losses in a row in one game. One game that you have a win, then 12 more losses. So it's really, this really doesn't tell your skill level per se, because you can only carry so much, like in a game itself.
Can you send me the link to this?
It's not a link. It's in Mechwarrior.
It's in game.
Basically in game left hand side. Okay, go to the main screen of Mechwarrior. On the left side, it says leaderboard.
Wait, you mean I gotta dig to find this, and it's not on the front page where something like you're
it's on the front page.
Yourself to other people?
It's on the front page. It's on the front page when you log into the game.
No, I'm being facetious at this point. Just describing something that would be much more effective at conveying.
You can also look at it in the actual game on the left.
That's what I'm doing now. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Go and check it out.
But like that's something that I think should be front and center. Like whenever you reach a certain position, it should become visible as the box below tier or something like that, or have it say you must reach tier 3 before it starts to appear.
But why is that though?
With the current leaderboard's implementation, however, it doesn't necessarily come off the right, because it's only ranking by total number of wins. So all it's saying is play more to rank higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that by ranking it like that, that's not the best way. But an elo rating is actually just a win-loss ratio by some people's standards. Even a win-loss ratio, but take in win-loss ratio and multiply by 15, or not 15, but by
Well,
100,
how about this
just to
though?
make it a whole number, would make it a little bit better.
How about this to add to your elo like rating? The amount of UAVs you drop, the amount of capture points you got throughout your time, the amount of times you actually did the frickin' objective instead of did skirmish match, stuff like that. How about adding that to it as well?
Well, that's hold on, I gotta type something in.
A lot of those
And
things
do
you're
it
talking about, Bob,
correctly.
can be imperceptible. It's like sometimes, running off and capping the points in Conquest is a good idea, but sometimes, like if you're too busy running off and doing the caps and you didn't join the fight, then obviously your team is down a player.
Yeah, true,
So-
true.
That's why the elo system is in other games is similar to how chess does it, where if you take the total elo of each team, and there you have the elo of each team. So then, if your team with a lower elo beats the team with a higher elo, everybody on your team gains elo, and everybody on the enemy team loses elo. Okay.
Let's only look
And
at
then-
win-loss, because at least, hopefully, overall, if you're doing more winning plays, you're going to win more. And all those imperceptibles
and
like
can be
skill
considered
and
better.
Yeah.
And overall, it'll average out. So yeah, there's going to be one-off games where at the end they pull off a really weird move and they somehow win, despite you guys playing really well all that time. Obviously, on average, however, it usually does fairly well enough. As ever, no system's perfect.
Well, no
So-
system's gonna be perfect though, like in its entirety, and basically, for example, is the tier system. It was good implement. Damn it, it was good at first. It was good at first, but then actually it just totally got torn apart.
And then I would say that using a battle value system would allow you to just amplify the results of elo by more or something like that.
Yeah, true.
There's a question, at least when we're talking about all these ELOs and stuff. It's what do these systems usually cater to? Well, for most players who are just playing casually, just for fun, like I think Bob and Bonnie are big examples of that.
Well, thank you. I'm
we
not.
just want a fun game, don't we?
Play
We
for
just
fun
want to
always.
have. We just want the teams to be sort of fair, for us to have a good even chance. And that's all we want the ELO system for. For others, though, much more competitively minded players, you want a system where you're looking at the numbers, you want to get your number as big as possible, that all your achievements are recognized by the game systems. And the consequential following up question is, what are the demographics of Mechwarrior Online? How much will this ELO system or all these proposed changes cater to the different players out there?
Interesting.
So it would also lend to a sense of progression. By the XP bar going up so freaking slow leads it to being inconsequential to your daily life. If you sit down in a play session and can fill up the bar halfway, then you're doing great.
Overwatch gives you constant loot boxes every so often, and Call of Duty, of course, with the prestige system, you're always leveling up every couple of games or every 10 games or so.
We got the catches.
In Mechwarrior Online, with the tier system, I completely agree. All you've got is a kind of a vague indication of, it's going a little up, it's gone a little down, and the bar slowly, imperceptibly moves left and right. So for those who really want to pursue progress and stuff like that, ELO is a much superior system, because at least you can see you went up by 15 points that game. You went down 20 points that game. Or and there's always constant a drip feeder reward. For me personally, I'm already at the top of tier 1 and I'm always usually winning, so I don't go anywhere. I'm already done with that progression system.
But with an ELO system, there's now a semi-scaling infinite progression system. You know what I mean? And it's always going to be drip. Well, even by losing, that can motivate people to keep winning. So what I think it is that those games have a pretty high player retention rating. Some of it's because the games are well balanced, but part of that also comes from the fact that there's a reward system that is almost constantly providing some sort of positive feedback.
I got a question.
With a game like Mechwarrior Online, there isn't a lot of positive feedback directly in the game that is near constant. So
I have a question from Ian. Like, what are good ways to motivate friends to play the game, and how would you sell it?
Okay, so
in fact, this is just a basically this is the like question and answering part basically that we normally have. It could be about this or different other subjects as well.
So like with Overwatch, my buddy got me into it and was like, "Hey man, you should try this game out." And the game was rewarding me for winning like the first 10 matches like over and over again. I kept getting things to win.
Food pellets.
And I was like, "What's going on?" Yeah, I kept getting food pellets. I kept getting stuff. And then I got high enough level to where those didn't happen like every match, and it was like, oh, every 2 matches, every 3. And it was like by this point I had already gotten invested in the game because I was getting rewarded not just in one big go, but like a little bit over time, and then it slowly started to wean off until it was consistently far apart. But I hit the ranked system, and then I could compare myself to others, and so I felt like there was progression still happening. I could tell that I was slowly marching towards oblivion,
marching towards oblivion,
which is what Byter actually like.
Marching towards that next loot box. They're about the same thing. Towards the next food pellet, because I could tell in the distance that there was a food pellet coming.
Yeah, well, actually, that's Byter's problem with this game now is he's already ranked at.
There's no food pellets.
He has no food. He has no more food pellets, basically.
Events are the only food pellets you can have. So the game is being held up entirely by community events, not by built-in progression systems where if the developers walked away from the game and never touched it but left the servers on, games like Overwatch and League of Legends would still be able to run fairly consistently because they have infinite progression systems.
Okay, how would you sell BattleTech then?
Mechwarrior
Online.
Mechwarrior?
And BattleTech.
And it's in its current state, I have to sell it as a social game.
I
would sell it as play it with your friends and you'll have a good time because the progression all comes from your friends.
True.
Not really from the game itself.
Most of the fun I have in Mechwarrior Online right now is actually playing with like you guys, Byter and like Exo and Bonnie and everyone else. It's just I really enjoy playing with my friends. Playing by myself, it's like okay, great. Like what am I gonna do and like how's this gonna work out type thing. And I do agree on that. But I think to go ahead and sell, Mechwarrior Online and BattleTech Online is actually do more videos. Kind of like what gets me into, for example, the Mechwarrior, the first Mechwarrior game for the I think it was the PlayStation. What sold me was watching the freaking video. I watched that going, that is awesome. If basically there's better videos of say of lore, just really highly developed good videos to watch, then I think it'll bring in another more of a player base to get into the game, the game itself. Because watching some of the videos from the past games, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And why hasn't Mechwarrior done that?
Well,
because it's Mechwarrior.
Overwatch was able to launch and have everybody love it without there being much lore out.
Well, plus also like they're done by Blizzard, right?
Yeah. Well, quality of the game. You can't really compare the qualities, but I think the concept and the idea of League of Legends also didn't have a very deep lore until very recently.
Yeah, well,
it was still being considered an esport before the lore was anything more than just like snippets that were attached to profiles, the equivalent of the Sarna wiki pages. Like for some mechs, the Sarna wiki page is like 3 sentences for a mech, and that's it. So that's why I think that those games were held up by the fact that they progressed you. You felt like you were doing something. You sit down and play solo, and you felt like you were actually getting something done.
Yeah.
With Mechwarrior Online, you have to set your own goals. Like, I will, master all of my heavy mechs this week. That was what I had to keep doing to get myself going. The problem is did the game reward me for doing that?
No.
That's
why
did I get anything besides the XP progression of a skill point each time? No. If the game gave me
when I tried to,
$500,000, if the game gave me 1,000,000 C-bills whenever I maxed out my mech to 91 skill points, that would have been great.
But
now you have a reason to finish each mech. Yeah, you could argue that inflates the C-bills, but but all it does is mean that you would eventually max out on your mech base and then you'd have to spend MC. Oh no, money. Like Like
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Why is that a bad thing? Why is having large amounts of C-bills a bad thing? You know.
And the HPG like uplink, hey buddy, like what's up? Says do patch, do like videos for each major like event in the game, just like Blizzard used to do for World of Warcraft, which actually will be my point. It'll get people more involved. Be like, oh, that's cool. That's that's cool that Blackjack killed like say like some clan mech or something like that, just to get people involved and to hype the game itself.
You mean like how they used to do for hero mechs when they would come out? I loved those. And
Well, the
they just
K9.
stopped.
Perfect example, the K9 does the same exact thing. When I watch that video, it's like if I didn't already have the K9, I would have bought it just because of that video.
The K9 had a video?
Yeah.
I think
never
that
saw
something else that would help too with like the player base problem that Byter was talking about is honestly make faction play a seasonal game mode.
That's going
I
to
know
piss off a
that'll
lot
make
of
a lot-
people.
Well,
That
a lot of
would
people are
piss
already
off a
pissed
lot
off
of
at the
people.
game anyway.
Beef would be
Like-
pissed off. I know that because he plays it constantly on his streams.
Well, that would be hilarious if like Beef heard about the idea and thought that it was great. I mean, has anybody actually asked him? Because
No.
like we can only speculate about how people would feel about it.
I only fight
True.
against them.
Float the idea to the people in your communities and see what they say. Like honestly, sit down with people and ask. League of Legends has rotating game modes. Overwatch has rotating game modes, and they work and they're fun. If faction play was a seasonal game mode where the season, where faction plays the race to push the clans out of the Inner Sphere or to touch Terra started at like I don't know when the Americans have their end of school. I don't know where it is for you, by like what time would be best for you or anybody else that's in a different
Time zone.
continent. Byter. I'm just like gonna go with American centrism because that's all I know. But like
Bloody
the
America.
start of the summer and it ends at the end of spring. It starts and the start of fall in the Western Hemisphere. It starts, and the
PvE
race is
mode.
on. And then at the end, there's the Battle of Tukid, and it's on a consistent day every year. And then bam, that's it.
Yeah.
It's over. You have bragging rights until the next cycle starts.
It'll
Like
be
that to me would be
it will be interesting, but
Chance
but
to answer the previous question.
yeah, go ahead, man.
Oh, sorry. Oh, did we never actually answer it? I'm sorry if I pushed
No,
it.
go ahead.
You guys did answer it, but just you two got so had your own conversation going. Fine, but
Okay, yeah, 4 more minutes, guys.
I had my own stuff I wanted to say too, which is at least personally, it's not just the social element. At least any game can do the social element. It's all, any game's fun with friends.
Yeah.
To me, though, what really draws me into Mechwarrior Online, why I played it for so long, is the mechanics and the approach is something so different from most mainstream titles out there. Obviously, I'm not saying it's perfect or anything like that, or that it couldn't be better optimized. I totally agree with the idea of like having seasonal faction play events. I think that could really make it a lot more motivational, inspiring to do. I think another example, at least to bring up, was Commander Lemming's video on leveling systems and stuff. Like in many of these games, you have these other games we've mentioned, you have separate levels for all the things, and I totally agree. Like we have an achievement system in this game, but it's so
Sucks.
it's so underwhelming.
The food pellets are very small.
Yeah.
The more you play, X mech, the higher your level goes. Initially you get from level 1 to 5 really quickly when you're playing in the Raven, and each time you level up, you get a nice chunk of C-bills. That would encourage you to keep playing your mechs, and that would make people feel attached to certain mechs because, oh, look at me, I'm a level 50 Raven pilot. Anyway, for me though, what I usually sell it on is the fact that it's a 12v12 death match. Every piece of damage matters, and all the people here have a huge part is the customization, the depth of the mech building, or the mech customizer. That's the huge draw to me in the game, and I think it could be, if marketed correctly, it's a huge draw to new potential players. So look at this game, you can make your own mechs and fight in a big, huge, powerful death match. And that's what I really enjoy doing. I like messing around, making very unconventional builds, and then doing really well in them. And that is usually
You mean like all the machine guns on your Shadowcat?
And I think going into that would be a change to where the giving you food pellets more often would lead to people being able to actually experiment with that customizability. Because I know one of my friends started to screw around with a build and immediately bought a AC-20 and didn't have any money to be able to do anything more. And that's how they said, nope, I'm done, because I wanted to change my build and I literally ran out of money before I even put on a second weapon.
What they need to do is they need to have trial options, like trial weapons you can only use in the training ground. And then before you actually go out, it won't let you take the mech out until you swap that weapon out and put an actual one in there. I think that'd be a cool idea, because I can't tell you how many C-bills I've wasted just to test out a build in the training ground and it being utter shit. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, there's 2 steps. First is the most important one is first time experience. Mechwarrior Online, that old tutorial is actually one of the most demanding parts of the game.
Yeah.
I've had people who have such potato computers they can't run the intro, even though they can run the game.
Wow.
And yeah, the intro itself is nothing special. It doesn't sell you on the game. And despite how long the game's been out, they still haven't improved the first player experience. I totally think they should give you a huge bunch of C-bills and more than just 3 mech bays. Getting new players at this point is really difficult, and you want to make it as attractive as possible. And they haven't been making that window easier. On top of that, as we've mentioned,
mech bays.
Well, they're trying the World of Tanks,
and
and they're trying the World of Tanks, like model base. So you only get I think 4 bays to go buy tanks. If you want to get more, you got to buy those bays to get more tanks.
Yeah, that's
same thing.
And it also encourages you to participate in the events, which I think should also have their own front and center spot on that screen that are constantly present. Like, instead of minimizing that initial yellow window, it should shift off to the side and turn into a condensed form that hangs on the side.
I agree with that.
But I actually have a video about that.
In terms of new player experience, by the way, is you should totally at least tailor 1 challenge each time for new players. And every event should have something like a mech bay.
That's a good idea.
That is very important.
Or they could have weekly challenges.
I mean,
The system is that sometimes you can earn a lot of MC from the events, but then there's always this nagging feeling in the back of your head that the mech bays are going to be cheaper, and a lot of the vets will tell you that.
Yeah.
So you haul all the MC until it's cheaper.
I mean, also, if they instituted a real level system besides the tier system, like an actual leveling system, you could just make it to where the level 10 and below challenge is, that you can get. Oh, Byter just dropped out. The level 10 and below challenge gives a mech bay, very easily. You could just do that. But I think the biggest thing that I think they could do right now is turn faction mode or faction play into a seasonal activity.
I like the idea, but I'm against it as well too, because it just rip
the Band-Aid off, old Bob.
Yeah, I don't want to rip that Band-Aid.
The Band-Aid off.
No, I don't want to.
Tell Russ about it. He likes ripping Band-Aids off.
No. I already give Russ a bunch of shit about faction warfare already, basically. So, okay, let's go wrap it up, guys.
Hold on. Let Byter say some stuff, because he just
go Byter.
Okay, some stuff.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
I was just reiterating that I think the best thing that they could do right now is turn faction play into a seasonal game mode.
It's 2 minutes over, guys. So let's kind of wrap it up as well.
Okay, that's my final statement.
Okay.
Faction play.
Okay, Byter, go ahead. You got the mic.
Before we hit the ground.
A new ELO system and a battle value system, they totally can have their merits, particularly to more hardcore audiences, people who are really invested in performing better than the others and stuff like that. And I think they're totally very good ideas to be thought of, at least in something like competitive. Otherwise, however, as I expressed earlier, I'm still quite skeptical about their efficacy in just general group queue or quick play and stuff like that, because for the most part, it seems the priority is to speed up matchmaking rather than making it very competitive. Though, as we all seem to agree on, I think the tier system is not inspiring, and we need more constant food pellets and a better first player experience.
Yeah.
And those I totally get behind.
Cool deal. Okay, who wants to do the wrap up?
I don't know how to do it, so somebody else.
It's pretty
It's the
easy.
first second podcast, everybody. I hope you had a good time. I will see you later. Bye-bye.
That's pretty much about it, guys. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll put links down below for everyone's channels. Exo does have a Twitch channel. Definitely check him out if you guys can. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel. Do you?
I do.
Okay, cool.
I have both.
Okay, we'll put both down there. Byter also has a YouTube channel and very interesting YouTube videos. And also, sorry, go on.
And now my foot's bleeding.
A heads up.
Stepped on something.
I'm going to head off and go stream some Overwatch. So if you want to watch some Overwatch, I'm heading over to my channel.
Count how many food pellets you get.
Yes. Count how many food pellets you get during that time. And then Bonnie the Ruthless, right? I always get your name wrong, man.
Bonnie the Bunny.
Bonnie the Bunny. Bonnie the Bunny.
Guy.
The only reason that it's ruthless in Mechwarrior is because my original account, which was Bonnie the Bunny, I can't remember the login. I can't remember the login at all. Like, I can't even remember.
Hold on.
Like,
quick question, Bonnie. Why is that? Did you stop playing for a while?
It's my alt account, which I couldn't remember the name and whatnot to Bonnie the Ruthless. My old username was like BDB123 or some shit like that, and it was like, nah, I'm gonna change it to Bonnie the Bunny. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I made an alt account, so I can't put Bonnie the Bunny.
Oh,
so
I
I'll
think
just
you
put
do
Bonnie
password
Ruthless.
recovery.
Yeah, I know.
So Bonnie the Bunny
I was
is
going to
Yes,
try and
Bonnie
bring
the
that
Bunny.
back to.
Bonnie GUH Bunny.
okay, and definitely check out his YouTube channel if you guys can. He will be doing Overwatch as well.
I post Overwatch content over there. Sadly, I cannot record on my computer. Otherwise, I'd have Mechwarrior content as well.
Because he's a potato.
Bird! And I have a bird, yes.
I was going to try and bring it back to because you didn't get enough progression to think it was worth remembering.
Well, that is true.
I'll be honest.
You guys have a good night, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
That's a pretty cheap.